Alright, in this video, you should have reached the end of topic 1, and this is the practice worksheet that is going to put all of what you learn into play. So we're going to talk about, or up until this point, we've talked about sequences, whether they're arithmetic or geometric, and then how to find their given explicit formula based off of arithmetic or geometric, and using that formula to find an unknown term. So this practice is going to kind of put all of those skills into play, and this will help you review for your quiz based off of topic 1 as well. Alright, so I'm going to do the first problem, and then I'm going to ask you to do the remaining 7, and your goal with this is to obtain mastery level, which is 7 out of 7 correct. So there's 5 parts to each of these problems. It looks like a lot, but I promise it doesn't take that long. It's just a sequential thought process to show that you've mastered the skills necessary up until now. The first objective, or first step, I guess you could say, is to state if the following sequence is arithmetic or geometric. The second step goes hand in hand with the first because in order to find if it's arithmetic or geometric, you have to find if it's has a common difference or a common ratio. So that's what it says. If arithmetic, find the common difference. If geometric, find the common ratio. So I'm going to do steps 1 and steps 2 kind of together and show you the process for that. So for step 1, I'm going to see first if it's arithmetic, and then if not, I'll check to see if it's geometric. Typically, you can kind of look at the sequence and determine, oh, that looks like it's arithmetic because they go up in a very ordered sequential order, versus geometric, the numbers either increase quicker or decrease quicker. These don't look to be increasing that quickly, or technically decreasing because they're negative. So I want to check if it's arithmetic first. Again, the first step for that process is to look at the second term in the sequence, negative 23, and subtract the first term in the sequence from it, or the term before it, which in this case is a negative 21. So negative 23 minus a negative 21. If I minus a negative, it turns into positive. So negative 23 plus 21 is a negative 2. I can try the next term in the process just to check my work. So I have negative 25 and subtract the term before it, which is a negative 23. So negative 23. Negative 25 minus a negative 23. If you subtract a negative, it turns positive. So negative 25 plus 23 is a negative 2. So both of the differences between two numbers within the sequence is negative 2. So I can determine from that information that this is arithmetic because it has a common difference that's being added or subtracted between the two numbers. All right, remember arithmetic is addition or subtraction. Geometric is multiplication or division. So I know that this is arithmetic based off the work I just did. So I'm going to write that to satisfy part 1. So I need you to write that and square in your answer to tell me that you have done part 1 correctly. Now, again, part 2 is based off of part 1, so I'm going to write it in the same color. It says if arithmetic, find the common difference, which we did in part 1. I know that the common difference is, it's a bad D, is negative 2. So part 2 and part 1, they go hand in hand. It's arithmetic and it has a common difference of negative 2. So far, so good. I'm going to switch colors and move on to step 3. Step 3 is writing the explicit formula. Now again, the explicit formula is based off of the parent formula for either arithmetic or geometric. In this case, we're working with arithmetic, and that formula is a sub n equals a sub 1 plus d times n minus 1. And if you remember from a previous video, a sub 1 and d will always change when you're finding the explicit formula. And if you remember, a sub 1 is the first term, d is the common difference. So for this sequence, the formula is a sub n equals, instead of writing a sub 1, I'm going to actually write the first term, which in this case is negative 21. That's my a sub 1. Plus, now in this case, my d is negative. It's a negative 2, so I'm going to write negative 2 times n minus 1. All right, that is the formula, but whenever your difference, especially for arithmetic because you're adding and subtracting, whenever your difference is negative, you can write it like this, negative 21 plus a negative 2, but I would like to see you clean that up a little bit, so I would like to see it written like this, a sub n equals negative 21 instead of writing plus and negative 2, I'm just going to put minus 2 times n minus 1. Alright, so whenever your common difference is negative, you can just write minus d instead of plus and negative d. Alright, so I have found my explicit formula. A sub n equals negative 21 minus 2 times n minus 1. So I will box that answer in for step 3. Moving on to step 4. Step 4 is just asking you to think about what's happening within the sequence. Alright, it's asking you to find the next 3 terms within the sequence. And if I know this to be true, I know that I'm adding negative 2 to each one of these numbers. So I'm going to take the last number in this sequence that's given, which is negative 27, and I'm going to add the difference to it, or the common difference to it. So negative 27 plus a negative 2 equals negative 29. Now that seems pretty straightforward, but there will be times, especially with geometric sequences, where that process isn't as straightforward. And all you do though is take the last number in the sequence, and if it's arithmetic, you add the difference to it. If it's geometric, you multiply the difference to it, or multiply the ratio to it. So next term is negative 29. Then I have negative 29 plus a negative 2, and that equals negative 31. And then I have negative 31 plus a negative 2, and that equals negative 33. So for step 4, those 3 numbers are the next 3 terms in my sequence. And then finally, I'll do this in another color. This is where you go back to step 3 to utilize the explicit formula that you found. So for step 5, it's asking you to find the 15th term of the sequence. Now please be advised, if you're working with a geometric sequence, this might be a very large number, so don't be worried if that's the case. But step 5, I'm going to reference back to the explicit formula that I came up with. And instead of writing a sub n, again, I want the 15th term of the sequence, so I'm going to write a sub 15. And I need to see that you write that so you actually know what term you're trying to evaluate. A sub 15 equals my explicit formula, which is negative 21 minus 2 times, now instead of writing n minus 1, based off of the explicit formula, I'm actually going to write 15 minus 1. Because in this case, my n is 15. I want to find the 15th term. So if you notice, n here changed to 15, and n right there changed to 15 as well. Now, I can just plug that into my calculator and solve for a sub 15. Now, I punched that in exactly like I see it in my calculator, negative 21 minus 2 times 15 minus 1 in parentheses, and I get a sub 15 equals negative 49. So please try to punch that into your calculator and make sure you get negative 49 just to check that you're entering things into the calculator the correct way. And I am done, and I've completed all 5 steps of a problem on this practice worksheet. So go ahead and do the remaining 7, and then I have an answer sheet that you can check your work with. And your goal again should be mastery 7 out of 7.